Usually the studio owners that I talk to that are making 30K or less a month, they're overburdened. They're a delegated trainer with their own space. And if they're hiring anybody, it's cheap labor. It's not centric to what they really want to build. You have people who have come to your location that they didn't buy. You have people that cancel on you. You have people who have come in and they've been members with you, but they're on a lower tier. You need to talk to those people and ask them, what would you like to see more of in your fitness experience? And get the feedback from those people and then implement that, because we have this thing, even entrepreneurs, we think we know what the market wants. We really don't until we ask. You just need to talk to more people. You need to get better at sales. I helped the studio in 14 days grow by 72% without spending ad, because they literally had all these people and they just needed the right words to say and they joined. And we're talking about $400 a month memberships. Then when you get to the 40 to like 60K range, the way to acquire leads at that point is you do the marketing, right? You do the outsourcing and everything else, but you really get tangible on the retention. Lead generation and sales gives you cash flow. Retention's how you scale.
This is the Reinforce Your Gym podcast with your host, Dustin Vogel. This show is about arming gym owners with the tools, strategies, and lessons they need to take their business to the next level. That way, they can make a greater impact in their community. Now, let's get to work and reinforce your gym.
All right, welcome in, guys, for another episode of the Reinforce Your Gym podcast. I am excited for today's episode. Gym owners, you're going to definitely want to pay attention on this one and get ready to take some notes, because we're going to get tactical. I got a guy that has worked in the OrangeTheory world and grew those gyms to multi-locations, being at seven-figure level. And then he now even helps gym owners to repeat what he did in their gym and give back to the industry. So I'm excited to have my guest, Giuseppe Mellone. How's it going, Giuseppe? You ready to do this, man?
Heck yeah, Dustin. It's a privilege to be here. Super excited to chat with your audience and get people to make some money and change some lives.
All right, man, let's do this. So you are in the New Jersey area, and let's kind of just give them a little bit of background, and for my own knowledge too, like, what is your story? I think main two things we want to learn. How did you get into fitness? And then how did you get into business? Sometimes it's the same thing. Sometimes they're two different stories. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Well, I always found that people, especially who've excelled in the fitness world, never originated from fitness. They were doing something and fitness kind of called to them. So for me, it was being a broke college student in Boston going, I need money and I love working out, so I'll work for the gym and get a free membership. That simple. And, I worked as a front desk employee doing the basics, right? The monotonous work, cleaning the studio, the bathrooms, and then also occasionally selling memberships. It wasn't our main focus, but it would happen. Someone would come in, they'll ask a couple of questions. And what ended up happening was I would just talk to people and they would end up joining, just because I would share my experience, and what I do is actively working out. And so my management at the time took a liking to that, said, hey, you should maybe be a membership consultant. And this is back in the big box era. So at that time, I was working for a company called Town Sports International. They had Boston sports clubs, New York sports clubs. They're very big out in the East Coast. And they had Lucille Roberts studios too, I think, out in the West Coast as well. But became a membership consultant, was just in charge of cold calling, old school, in the bullpen, doing the lists, doing the drives. Was just really successful with that. Grew my career into the corporate sales game, where I was doing business to business partnerships, where we do a business partnership, collect 20 memberships per partnership, so 40 memberships a month, driving that as another funnel for the gyms. Then had an opportunity to be a general manager at a Crunch Fitness, which was really cool. That was more of my real operational experience. Talk about really not knowing how to lead anybody, and especially someone who was really young at the time, 22 years old, leading people, 30,000 square foot gym.
That's where I want to dive into that, because you said corporate B2B and then operations at Crunch. Where does that jump happen? Like what?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I always knew I wanted to grow and just keep growing in the fitness industry. I loved what we were doing and how we were changing lives and inspiring health. And the path just wasn't there for me. I think at times when you become really good at what you do, the discussion becomes whether we leverage that person to a new role and try to replace them. It can be tough. So, you know, and we could definitely get into that as far as like leadership and development. 'Cause that's what I did a lot in Orange Theory. But, another opportunity spoke to me, and it was an opportunity for growth and something new and challenging. And so I took that on. So I went from that corporate sales to, hey, let's actually operate, let's lead, let's develop, let's really build a business, as a manager, right? And most studio owners and gym owners, especially ones I work with, they're playing the GM role at the same time. They might have somebody in there as well, but we know that you're constantly operating, right? So I did that, and I was able to increase the personal training revenue there by 50%. They were really struggling, and they didn't have the right systems in place. And from my sales experience, and knowing I can just talk to people and get people going, we were able to sell high ticket personal training and really fostered really great trainers that could just retain the business, so that we would focus on the top end, they would focus on the back end. We made money. It was awesome, right? And in the big box world, it's you sell the memberships to keep the lights on. Personal training is where you get the real money to do a lot of the lever pulling.
So let's dive into that. I know we'll keep going with your story,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I want to explore that because that's like a big juicy thing right there. You said like, hey, they didn't have the right system. So like unpack that. Let's get tactical. What did your eye catch that was broken that maybe a gym owner can deploy in their business?
Well, when you're working at in a gym like Crunch, where it's low ticket, when you're going to offer personal training, it's such a price jump, right? You go from 9.99 or 24.99 to, you know, at minimum, if you do 30-minute sessions, like $120. But even that, right, in itself, from $25, $120 a month, that's a big price jump, right? And so the few things that I saw was, one, when I went into that location, just the care of the business with equipment, maintenance was not there. And that's usually a sign of wheels are turning, meaning we're all over the place and we're not paying attention to the things that are in front of us. And so there was a lot scattered. So then everything else falls apart with that you think, oh, is minute, but it's actually the long game of your business. So it's not hard to sell a $10 membership. People, they know what the price is. You have it marketed everywhere. But it's different when you need to take that person and change their beliefs into understanding why an investment above what they're paying and what they're doing is going to pay out in quicker time for them than them just doing it in a lump. So one of the processes that was incorrect was just how we maintained the studio, or sorry, the gym, and how the staff nurtured the members, right? People show up to work out. They're on their own intrinsic motivation unless they work with a trainer. And a lot of those people have a hard time. So if you don't have staff there that is just supportive, happy, doing the workout themselves, like working out in the gym, what kind of community are you building? So there was lack of community in there. And then finally, in a more tactile way of sales processing, intros were not being booked, meaning, or fitness orientations, right? When someone would join, there was a failure to book that fitness orientation. And you know this, and a lot of experienced uh, operators will understand this. There's a timeline here where emotions start to dwindle. And if you don't capture that moment right away and do it in a very creative way, you lose a lot of opportunity. So I wouldn't say, there's a lot of detail in there, but in kind of just keeping it generalized to make it very easy to digest, those are the three main factors. And once we figured out, let's get the maintenance done, let's pause for a minute, let's take a little bit of a hit and just focus on how do we create the good maintenance of the studio? Because if we do that, then everyone else around us is going to be better, which means the staff is going to feel better. And the staff feels better. They're more motivated to be there to hang out after their shift and go work out and do all that stuff. And then energy is conveyed all over the place. And so then having natural conversations doesn't even feel like a sale anymore. That's when the fitness orientations became so natural in booking in that process.
And I bet the team's conviction went up because they believed in the gym, because they're like, look at this beautiful space you get for $10 or $25 a month. Isn't this a bargain? Or when it's jacked up, they might shrug their shoulders and say, well, you get what you pay for. Hey, forgive us, but it is a low price. So you'll have to deal with tearing the upholstery. You have to deal with the pulleys not working. But hey, let's be real. It's $10. So it's like that just changes the belief system of the team and their salesmanship when they're proud of the place that they're selling, right? And the quality. So I love that. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. So let's continue the story from Crunch. What happens next?
Yeah. So I was running that ship by myself at a really young age where my leadership, and it's nothing against leadership, it's just how the structure was set up. They were remote from me. I didn't really have the support that I really needed. And I was working 14, 16-hour days every day. I mean, there would be points where I would go at 4:30 in the morning just to tidy up the gym where we need to, because we had to cut some costs and certain labor costs. And then open the gym up with the front desk. I would take a nap in my Toyota Corolla and then show up, do my sales, do my meetings, all that stuff. Probably stay there closer to closing time just because we got to make sure everybody gets out, the staff feels good. And sometimes they're like, I'm gonna just sit in my car because in a few hours I got to be back. So I've lived that life of there's a lot of chaos going on, and I don't know really, I don't have the clarity, and I wasn't getting that right. And this will definitely lead into where I believe your path is taking, my path is taking as far as coaching. But I didn't have that. So I said, you know what? Fitness isn't for me. I'm kind of done with it. So I quit completely in the fall of 2019. And I just says, you know what? I'm going to work at a bar for now and just kind of figure out what I need to do. And took a pause, took some time to reflect. And when I was at the bar, at times where I didn't have to work, I would just look on Indeed, see what was available, and I heard of OrangeTheory. And I was like, I don't know what the hell this really is, but it says it's group fitness. It's a higher price point. It was just a little more exciting, right? Higher price point, probably better clientele to work with, smaller environment, a little more manageable. It's like, okay, well, if I manage a 30,000 square foot gym, managing a studio can be a little bit different, right? So got that opportunity. January of 2020, I mean, we crushed. And at the time, Orange Theory really didn't offer promotions. So we were full sale, full price, and we sold 90 new memberships the first month, just applying the same things I did at Crunch there. We absolutely dominated. And then February came around, and then that one little virus started kind of appearing up. And then March, we all know what happened, and we all shut down, and it was really tough. Um, in that time frame, we froze everybody's memberships. We didn't cancel on everybody. We just said, look, we know that when we come back, we need to really nurture our member base. And then when we came back at the time, the operations team that was the ownership group that was in charge asked me to be one of the first, they called dual studio managers, where we operated multiple locations. I didn't really have anybody between me, but it was me kind of hopping around. And we were able to grow after, reopening. And when I talk about reopening, I'm sure you have a story with this too, Dustin, but I mean, it was like a science project. We were looking at the laws. We were looking at what we're trying to do. We bought barriers so that we can, break the 14-foot rule so that people could take their masks off and there's a barrier in place, trying to be so creative and making sure that also people felt safe, right? Because we all didn't know what the hell was going on. So mitigating that, and then also realizing at that point, and we could definitely talk a little bit about this, that I couldn't do it all by myself. And I had people who were working for me that were younger than me, that were new to the work world, and I needed them to sell, we're talking about $250, $300 a month memberships. And so building the systems to get these people who have never had sales experience to feel the confidence in being able to sell was the only reason why we were able to grow, because then I was able to focus on what do we need to make sure that everybody's doing well, right? If we can focus at the top front of the business, it's really operating in a smooth pace and the language that I need them to operate, and they understand the why behind that. And with that conviction that you talked about, that they have that confidence, we were able to grow from there, which was great.
Well, yeah, I do want to stop right there and dive in because I think lots of gym owners are like totally relating and resonating. They're like, oh my God, I got a bunch of young coaches, inexperienced coaches, not like sales apprehensive coaches. They don't like talking money. They don't like asking for money. And they're like, oh my God, we got to definitely hear, how you did that. So we're not trying to throw like OTF under the bus, but like every franchise has strengths and weaknesses. Did they not have sales training built in for owners to tap into and managers, or did you feel like it was maybe just like basic and it wasn't what you needed? Like why not get what they had already?
Yeah. And this is exactly why I started my business. It's because there's no cookie cutter model in operating a studio. And, through my career, like, again, I'm still in Massachusetts. I went to New York and I've expanded to multiple states. A studio in Atlanta, Georgia is going to operate in a studio in Manhattan. So why are we giving the same playbook? It doesn't make sense. So do they give trainings as they should? Yes, 100%. And is the playbook backed up by data? Yes. But when you're expanding and growing and not actively changing and evolving with how the market is listening to, those playbooks end up not working. The principles do, but the actions are different. So, for example, at OrangeTheory, they really highlight, that the sales associate, that front desk employee, is the person who's making the sale, and the coach is just delivering the experience. And the expectation is they have a great experience and their dopamines are up, they're going to want to sign up. But the problem is that because of the pandemic and you had Peloton and you had all this other competition, everyone was going, well, I need to think about it. That was the conversation afterwards. So what I did differently and what I encourage every owner to do is recognize and keep it real simple, because it is. Who's spending the most time with the prospect? The sales associate or the coach? Okay. And the answer is the coach, right? Because we know on the onboarding process, which we all commit to making really excellent, reality is if you want them to show up 30 minutes, they'll probably show up 15 minutes, right? And you're trying to have I don't want to say unqualified, but an individual who may not have the experience and the training to handle those type of conversations in such a quick time to qualify, give the information to the coach and everything else. But you do know that if they show up for the class, they are going to be in that class for an hour. And if your coach is top tier, which is a huge part of business, and you give them the resources, they're going to know how to build the relationship and the rapport within the class without the prospect even realizing it, right? They're not going to feel like, oh, the one isolated out. Like, yeah, we should reward them, everything else, but they're going to feel those good vibes and they're going to see the coach participating with everybody else and bring them into the community. And so we would have the coaches close the deal in the studio where it's completely private. Because again, it's the hand back, right? You give, the coach gives it back to the sales associate. They talk about the paperwork. And then you're in a lobby when the next class is going in and this person's being asked, hey, it's $300 a month. You want to join today? And you don't know their financial situation. You don't know what's going on. And when people are uncomfortable and they want to be polite, they tell you, I need to think about it. They don't want to tell you no. They want to be polite about it. So we mastered this process where we were able to close the deal, handle objections in the studio with the coach, and the sales associate was just an assistant. They were just the one that was like, yeah, we explain the app a little bit, explaining maybe some of the other features that they have to make the onboarding experience for their membership really solidified. But the objections and everything else, I would just tell the coaches, one, you have to have the confidence in the product that you're delivering, which you do. You're a coach. You deliver this product every day. And two, you're the authority. And I think a lot of studio operators, especially the ones I talk to who struggle with sales, don't understand that they have to be the authority, that people respect leadership. The people who struggle with sales, they always say, like, I was asking, how many conversations have you? I'm having so many. I'm like, okay, well, do they like you on these conversations? Yeah, they love me. Okay, well, that's why they're not buying. Because liking you is different than solving a problem. And you can build all that rapport stuff at the end when the deal is done. But in the beginning, we have a mission. Hey, you came here, you invested your time, right? We need to make sure your time is being invested appropriately so that we can get you moving and grooving in the direction you want to be. So with that in mind, and that being the core part of the conversation and empowering the coaches to feel that way, it was a no-brainer for a lot of people just to join. And we saw a lot of our closing percentages increase, So I think a big, tactical way, and I definitely have some things here that we could talk about going into the new year too. But if you're not having your trainers and your coaches being the dominant figure in the sales process, which again, the members are going back to see them. Nothing against a sales associate. I was a sales associate. It's just, they're not going to see them all the time. They might be the check in, but they're really going to see the coach. They're going to see the product.
I love that, because when I went and got chiropractic work, the chiropractor sat me down, gave me the package, told me if you pay monthly or if you pay in full, I chose. And then he walked me out to the front desk and said, she's going to take care of you and get your payment handled. So like he did the closing, but then it was like the paperwork is like handed off. And that's kind of how you're saying it. And he was the expert, right? Like, so I'm going to higher likely buy from him versus if it was her at the front desk or something and she's not a Cairo, I'm not going to go forward, right? So I love that. Now, just kind of like talking about that more, like what do you do when the person's like apprehensive to asking for money? Like, is this like a pump up talk where you're trying to get their, their ego pumped up? Like, no, you're awesome. Don't be afraid. Or do you give them like a line that they can use that helps them feel like transitioning from coaching to selling that makes it more comfortable? Like, how do you take a coach who's anti asking for money and turn him into a selling machine?
Yeah. So a lot of people like to have some form of phrase, which I do have, but I also, sales is an art, and if it's an art and science, right? So while this phrase is super powerful, the principles are really important. And in those situations, what that told me is when there was an objection, we failed the whole beginning of the process. Because what we should have gotten before they came into the studio was we should have created the gap. And this is the biggest area. And if you want to get really good at sales, I mean, this is the one thing that gym owners really mess up on is they talk, they ask the basic generic questions and then they go right into the program. And then they go, do you want to join? And you get the generic questions of like what your fitness goals are. Do you live or work in the area? You know, all those, and those things are important. But what's really important is to understand their pain. And if we can understand what their pain truly is and how we can solve it, either A, if their pain makes no sense to what we do, because there's this theme, right, that fitness is for everybody. No, your studio is not for everybody. It's for a specific target. Can it help everybody over time? For sure. But right now, what you're trying to do and how you can guarantee results is realizing and focusing on who you can help right away, right? So in those situations, I just know that, okay, we didn't create the gap. We didn't go, okay, so with, this goal of, achieving X, Y, and Z, where do you see yourself in the next 6 to 12 months if you don't choose a fitness program, right? Well, I don't know. Like, what have you been doing right now? I've been looking on YouTube. Okay, well, how's that been going? It's tough. Yeah, that is really tough. So what you're telling me is that if you've had something in structure, do you think in the 6 and 12 months you'll see some transformations? Yeah, but what does that look like to you? Right? And you help create this future that they don't know, because when people buy memberships, they buy access. They don't buy a product, really. They buy access to show up and go through pain and effort and everything else. They have to earn their keep. So if you're not creating the gap and going, what's the future for you? Where are you trying to be? How would this change your life? Like, what situations you think of right now? You can go from somebody saying, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds to realizing I want to feel more confident in my skin. And when I come into work, that I'm in charge and I'm an authoritative figure. Well, if you're in great shape, yeah, you're going to feel that way. And then think of the benefits that caters to. So that all needs to be done in the beginning. But to your point, say that doesn't happen, everything else, right? Two avenues you can go. The easiest and phrase that I like to use for objections is to go, okay, so let's say if it was a financial objection, right? Well, okay, so if the price was cheaper than what we just talked about, would you join today? And if they say yes, it's a price objection, and there is a reality that we probably won't be able to give our top tier most valuable plan, but we can find something in there that makes sense, but explain to them the value that they are missing out if they don't take that risk of jumping in, 2 feet into the most valuable thing we have for them. Um, if they go, well, I also have to check my schedule, then you go, okay, so if the price is cheaper and it worked for your schedule, would you join today? And if you keep getting more objections, that person was not qualified. They're not mentally there to really be a part of something quite yet. And again, we failed either in the marketing effort, in the discovery effort, at some form of things going on prior to the class, right? Because you could have an unbelievable experience and people can love it, but it doesn't necessarily always mean that they're going to come back, because experience now, that's just been over leveraged. Like, everyone's going to have a great experience at this point. Now it's going in deeper. So that's the phrase that I would use. I would take the objection, ask them the opposite, And if they tell you that's what it is, you need to work from there and kind of make sure that you have a solution and a plan, but also explain without devaluing what you offer. Saying, for example, with Orange Theory, there's unlimited, there's an elite, and there's a basic. So if the person could afford the unlimited and they say financially it's just too much, saying, hey, no worries. Are you still really committed to making changes happen today? Yeah. Okay. Let's start you on the elite. It's not my favorite for you for what you need. So I recommend that, that extra hour because you're only coming in 2 hours a week, not times hours. Okay. That extra hour in the week, I'd love for you to do just some walking, just some form of cardio or some weight training wherever you're at. And then come check in with me at the end of each week and let me know how you're feeling. Because what that's going to do is they buy into them. They realize, oh, okay, I have somebody to talk to and everything else. And once they build that relationship a little bit more, they go, you know what? I'm willing to invest and upgrade. And that's an upgrade opportunity, right?
Love that.
So in those kind of objection situations, those are the quick kind of navigations to go by. But at the end of the day, you got to
Awesome.
provide a solution.
So I like to stretch gym owners' beliefs of what's possible because a lot of times, and the reason I love these podcasts is they get to visit with other gym owners around the world and hear what's going on. Because otherwise, they stay in their little island and they just see their gym and they think that's how all gyms are. So, what was your peak, man? Like, what did you grow these things to? Whether you want to share member count, revenue count, like, what did you grow these gyms to? And did you multiply that across multiple locations? Did you have one that was just like this crown jewel? Like, what did you reach so other gym owners can hear what's
Yeah, no,
possible?
for sure. So kind of just fast forwarding a little bit of my story, from that instance where I was able to kind of do that with those two studios, they made me into what they called a regional manager, which was overseeing 15 locations in Massachusetts. So I had 30 direct reports, which were head coaches and managers, trained them, operating with them. And we were able to see net growth on average with each studio. We were looking at the studio was growing at least by 5 to 10 new members, which to me, for 15 locations, I was pretty happy with, where we were at. And then our ownership group had a huge opportunity to purchase the flagship for Orange Theory, which was this Mecca Jewel in Manhattan. And I was responsible for building the team, being a part of the build out, launching it, pre sale, all that stuff. And then we opened, we hit that 6 figure mark and we kept pushing through. And then we acquired more studios in the New York area and was able to get those to 6 figures a month. And at that time, because the project was so big and I left Massachusetts, I had a little bit of a smaller market of studios. So I went from 15 to six, rightfully so. And those six, three were based in New York, and the three were based in Pennsylvania. And so a lot of it was just traveling and managing remotely. But I would say my big claim to fame was opening that flagship studio. Orange Theory, no shade to you, but this is the truth. We had no leads. We had no CRM set up. We had no leads. The digital marketing went out, I think, like 2 weeks prior to like our VIP kind of getting people in. So I was scared shitless because I was like, we're opening the studio. We have no marketing done, and it's New York City. This is one of the hardest places to do. So, marketing is extremely important, but I really focus a lot in sales and having conversations. And so I took the teams that I hired, and even before we had the studio open, we just went out all over the city. We got involved in events. We got involved in different places. And we just said, where do our people hang out? In this market, in this demographic, where are they? Well, we're in the Upper East Side. It's a lot of C-suite executives, a lot of real estate brokerages. So let's go to real estate events. Let's go to workspaces. Let's just talk to people. And the cool thing about fitness, which I love, is when you tell somebody what you do and you're in fitness, they're kind of like more excited to talk to you because it's not no offense, but it's not something boring and
Yeah.
like, real estate, I do that. It's like,
Yeah.
I run a gym. Oh, what's that like? And they're excited. And all of a sudden, you're building relationships. And because we did those efforts and we did partnerships with local banks and everything else, we were able to hit that 300 membership mark that we really needed to hit. And then when we got the marketing, it just started really coming through. Um, and I mean, that took a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and fear. But it happened. And you know, with managers and owners, there are times where things get really scary and you don't know what's going to happen. Whether you're opening your first location, you're opening your third one, something just doesn't work. You hired them. I've heard this all the time, hiring a marketing agency and it just doesn't work out because, certain things aren't aligned. The worst thing you can do is like throw your arms up and go, well, this is not going to work. What are we going to do? And then you made these wrong impulsive decisions versus going, I got to roll up my sleeves and I got to get in there. And I'm sure and we can talk a little about this too, but a lot of the people who do talk to me for advice, usually when there's someone who, hey, I want to run a gym, but I really want it to be turnkey. I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry, man. You just chose the wrong business to invest in. Like, it's just not a turn unless you have a partner that's willing to be a GM for you, and you're just a silent partner and you're focusing on the financials. There's no way that you're going to be able to successfully sustain and operate a gym without getting in the trenches with your teams. Not all the time, but there's going to be times you need to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a physical location. People want physical leadership, and I've seen it because I've owned physical businesses and online businesses, and it's just the mentality the person working in that type of business expects. Nobody in my online company expects to see me in their city and like walking around or in their house because they're like, oh, we're an online company. But physical, I mean, you even brought it up. You're like, hey, my leadership wasn't on site at Crunch. I'd like to see that, right? But it's because you were working in a physical location. So like mentally, we just have different expectations based on the business. And I agree with you. Like I've not seen a gym grow and just explode like your story here without on-site leadership. People need to see it, right? They want to see it with their own eyes. Words are nothing. They just, again, they can send a company email, they can get on Zoom. That will not fire a coach up or a gym team like seeing their boss or their leader show up and pound the pavement and shake hands and make sales and greet the members. And then they'll say, okay, I'm following that guy. Right. And so, unfortunately, I've seen, and I'm sure, again, you talk to gym owners, that old school hustle mindset of getting out there and meeting people belly to belly. Social media has just made us so lazy. And even me owning a marketing agency, I tell people this is a tool in your tool belt. This isn't your silver bullet. This doesn't solve everything. You need to get in your chamber of commerce. You need to have booths at events. You need to have banners and flyers. You need to have physical signage. You need to make content. You need to be asking for referrals. There's like 10 different poles that you can have in the pond, but they'll just throw the Facebook poll and get frustrated if it's not exploding their business, right? So like that is just lost. Unfortunately, is the old school belly to belly marketing. Everyone's become very lazy with online and digital marketing. So like when you worked with other gym owners now, what's kind of advice you give them around getting them more leads? Especially I'm sure they have a lower budget than an Orange Theory. They're gonna obviously bring a big budget, and that's where they can kind of like throw up their hands and say, oh, they're bringing big money. There's one opening down the street from me. They got private equity, all these things like. So how can a local gym with a tighter budget deploy marketing? And by the way, resources are money, but another one that you brought up is time. It didn't cost you things. Yes, there's payroll with you and your team, but like you're out, you're talking to people, so you can give up time if you don't have money to go get sales. So like, what are some of your best tips for that with gym owners? Gym owners, let's be real. You don't love lead follow-up, and that's why I started Gym Reinforcement, so you can pass it over to us, because that's probably not why you started a gym. That's not what you love to do in business, is to chase leads down all day long. Well, hey, hand that over to me and my team of remote sales reps. We're going to text them, call them, email them, social media, DM them. We're going to do all the channels so that you don't got to worry about it, and they're going to get reached out to quickly. And that is what we do at Gym Reinforcements. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of AI and bots and automations out there that can reach out to your leads, but let's be honest, it's not very good, and people could tell right away. You probably would rather to have human to human customer service from start to finish, meaning from when they opt in to when they get serviced by your coaches. We want to have that exist throughout the whole client journey. So let us step in, let us engage your leads, let us sell them for you. And that way you can do what you do best and serve them and get them results. So if you want to book a call, go to gymreinforcements.com and we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Man, that's so good. And it's true with the lack of just the guerrilla old school getting in there. I mean, it works. It works and it takes time. But when I talk to a gym owner, especially ones that are generating less than 30K a month, and they're like, "Oh, I need more leads and I need to talk to more people." I'm like, "Well, you need to get better at sales. That's what you really need to do." And so there's this conception that, oh, because I'm not at a certain revenue stack, it's because I don't have enough people to talk to and outsource that, or I need to run paid ads. I'm not saying paid ads work incredibly. Marketing agencies do an amazing job. But if you do not have the sales process in place, it doesn't matter. And so usually the studio owners that I talk to that are making 30K or less a month, it's, they're overburdened. They're literally in my they're a delegated trainer with their own space. That's really where they're at. And if they're hiring anybody, it's cheap labor and it's not, centric to what they really want to build. So for those people, I explain that you have people who have come to your location that they didn't buy. You have people that cancel on you. You have people who have come in and they've been members with you, but they're on a lower tier. You need to talk to those people and ask them, what would you like to see more of in your fitness experience? And get the feedback from those people and then implement that, because we have this thing, even entrepreneurs, we think we know what the market wants, but we really don't until we ask. And once we start asking what the market really wants and they go, well, I want this, like right now going into the new year, you know, the biggest boutique brands are going to be Pilates and yoga studios. Those things are growing like crazy, and holistic focus is growing like crazy, right? You see the cold plunges, saunas, all that type of stuff. So, what are you doing to maybe incorporate that in the future? How are you building that out? So, if you're in that like range, you just need to talk to more people. You need to get better at sales. And that's where I help you. I get you better, more fine tuning your sales process. We get you something. I helped the studio in 14 days grow by 72% without spending ads, because they literally had all these people and they just needed the right words to say and they joined. And we're talking about $400 a month memberships, and they were nervous. I was like, no, that's a good price. You're in New York City, man. Like people are there's a $10,000 a month exclusive gym that's there. You're not, it's all those beliefs, right? But then when you get to the 40 to like 60K range, the way to acquire leads at that point is you do the marketing, right? You do the outsourcing and everything else, but you really get tangible on the retention and really focus on that. Lead generation and sales gives you cash flow. Retention's how you scale. It's the only way, because there are going to be points where your cost of client acquisition is going to be way more because of seasonality and reality. But you know what? The people that are coming into your studios all the time, they're there. How can you make sure, again, feeding into them a little bit, how can you get into their market space and go, not without necessarily going too direct and saying, do you have any friends that are interested, right? Like you can do all that type of stuff, but how do you make the experience and the whole process of them being there, make them want to talk about their workout when they're having lunch with their friends? I had a studio in near State College, right? Pennsylvania, college town, kids. The thing about college kids, they're all broke. So mom and dad has to pay for the membership, right? So imagine it's another filter you have to get through. So if you think, oh, again, it goes back to the whole cookie cutter process. If you think, well, if I just do this process with this kid and do this, blah, 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 they're going to be like, I don't have money. I took the free class because I'm a broke college kid. So we built something where we built a rewards program with all the businesses locally, that if a college student, if they were 21 years old and older, and they would show a workout result from the studio, they get one drink for free. And that would start, and we would help the bars and local businesses get traction from our members. So we're helping them out, right? And then they're, these kids are like, oh, how are you getting a free drink? Oh, we went to OrangeTheory. Boom. And now they're talking to their parents right before they go into the studio and be like, my friends are doing this and blah. So the deal's done and they got the money and they're ready to buy it. Even if you tried the class. So, that question of what would I recommend as far as getting leads and generating, especially at that 30 to 60K cap, you have to be really creative. You have to build partnerships. You have to recognize that you're part of a community, right? So if you're going to be involved in this community, be active. And I truly believe the art of reciprocity. I don't really try to expect anything out there. I just try to give. And if people respect and know that I'm coming from a genuine place of giving, they will naturally want to give back. And that happens every single time. So build partnerships, build foundations in different avenues to get leads versus focusing just on paid ads. I'll tell you this, in private equity, that's all they're focused on. They got the capital, they got the generic ass marketing that's been around for 10 years and they don't want to update. And they push that crap and they think, oh, we got 300 leads, we need a 30% conversion. And they wonder why the conversion isn't that great. It's because everything else in place, the community, everything you talked about with the Crunch Gym, the same application, right? Goes back to what I was saying before. The principles are the same, but how you implement everything is very unique and different to what your environment is. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, you did, and you went above and beyond, and I love that golden tip about, partnering with the bars, because, I mean, you say a free drink to a kid that just turned 21, and they'll sign up for whatever you got, and I've done it. I mean, we had a bridal shop that we partner with, a meal prep company, a chiropractor, a hair salon, and to your point, a local gym, they got to stop thinking and trying to match what they see online companies doing. They got to think like a local company and embrace it and say, I need to be the most well-known person in my 5 mile radius and be the fitness mayor. Like everybody thinks when they think that word, they think of me. And I have so many paths leading to me that like almost all roads lead to me. Because if you go ask the smoothie lady we should train with, they're gonna say my gym. And if you talk to your friend, they train at my gym. And you look at your Facebook and I'm on your feed, and it's just omnipresence, right? I'm everywhere all at once. But I find owners are willing to embrace the online component where they kind of get their butt pucker is like, I got to go talk to someone in person. I got to go shake the hand of the smoothie shop owner. Like this is so uncomfortable. And I challenge that. I just say, you talk to strangers all day. You just like it when you're in the place of authority. It's a lead coming in to buy you. That was a stranger. So I just say, now you have to kind of go out and be the person sitting in their shoes, the lead going in and saying, hey, like I want to work with you, right? And to your point, people don't like when you come in and you're soliciting and your first thing you want to do is throw down some business cards on their desk and pitch. That's like you're gonna run them away. But if you say, I would, what if you just walked in and the first thing you want to do is drop $100 in gift cards and you're like, hey, I own a gym. I'm gonna be running an attendance raffle. Everyone who comes 15 times this month, they're gonna be winning your card. Can I buy 100? And they're like, whoa, now I got their attention because I came in with value. I'm adding value. I'm buying something. I'm spending money. I'm like, yeah, maybe we can work out a deal here. Maybe, like I could do something like, like you said, where they show my membership card, you give them 10% off. That's the way to do it. Not, can I throw my business cards on your desk? That's going to scare them off real quick, right?
We put it right in the trash. Let's put it that way.
Pretty much. You gave a great, answer for people who need help with marketing and sales. Let's talk to the gym owner struggling with retention. One thing that, again, I think a lot of owners will focus on is, yes, the product and the coaching needs to be good, but like they just look at the programming. Like they're just like, what's today's workout? How are we going to smash legs? And like that's it. The gym owners can get really stuck on just the workout of the day and the programming and not seeing the whole picture. So how do you help someone if they have really poor retention? Let's say they're at 8, 10, 12, 15%, attrition, and you can't outsell that level of attrition. Oh, yeah. What do you help? What would you say for that person?
Yeah. Well, failure is feedback, right? So you have to look, and I've been there before. I mean, I remember I was acquiring that studio at State College, and their attrition was atrocious. And parts of it are, it's a college town, there's seasonality, so you have to be a little realistic. But there is also a reality of when a studio has really, really bad attrition, it's because there is no sense of urgency, community, or energy in the place, right? We talk a lot about FOMO, fear of missing out. You're not creating this environment of, I need to be a part of it. You're not into their ecosystem. One of the things that I would tell my teams all the time is I would ask everybody, do you have an iPhone? and everyone would show their iPhone. I go, how many of you have a MacBook? And the same people have the iPhones and the MacBook. Okay. And then, does anybody else have like the Apple Watch? And then a few people have the Apple Watch. Okay. So you bought one product and you said to yourself, okay, I have this one product. This product is solving my problems and giving me great experience. I don't necessarily need the other product, but because there is another product and I already trust this product, I'm going to invest in that. And then guess what happens? When the new Android comes out, you don't care because you're a part of the ecosystem of Apple. So if you fail to create an ecosystem in your gym, it's going to be real easy for them to walk away. And in order to create an ecosystem, it is all about authenticity, solving their problems, and creating vision and growth in what you're doing, right? There's this, level of, yes, the workout experience is great. Yes, I've hit the results. But then what else are you doing working on the business to make the business the shining like heartbeat in the community? How many events are you hosting? Right? One of the things I was terrible at was events, but my managers were great. And this goes into delegation parts, right? When you're managing so many people, and for the owners that do have people that they delegate to, whether it's multi-state or whatnot, hiring the right people who are way better than you at certain things that are going to help make your business grow. And you don't have to worry about that. Just like when I was building that, flagship studio, I didn't really have to think about a lot of things because the people who were the strongest at it were in the right place. And so creating events, creating all these different experiences within the location helps build that ecosystem. Also, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, too many people focus so much on the top of funnel and then never focus about everything else that happens once they're a member. We have follow-up sequences that we do with members who are members, not someone who's at risk. Why should we reach out to you when you're at risk? That's just a red flag, right? To me as a member, be like, oh, they're reaching out to me, like underutilized. Oh, now they're reaching out to me and I haven't been a member for, I've been around for a couple months. I'm going to cancel my membership. But if you were focused on creating a frequency, right? Newsletters are really, really easy. They get sent out once a month. Great way to do that. As a general manager, there should be no reason why after the first month of your members there, you pull out a whole list. I would do this all the time when I was a GM. Pull out all list of my new members, time them out from the exact 30 days of when they join, and I would just reach out to them via email. Hey, I just want to check in, see how things are going. And if anything, if my teams were really on top of it, we would have notes about their goals, what they're trying to achieve, and everything else. So, hey, Cassandra, want to check in with you. I know you have your wedding coming up. I want to know how your first, month with us is going, and feel you're going to see the results. It's those small things, and those things could be automated for sure. But I also believe that human interaction is so necessary, especially now with the idea of AI and automation, where people are going to pick at, even chat GPT, you're starting to notice when something is AI generated and when something is, human generated. Um, and if you can just focus on having a process, a system in place that follows up with your members for the next 6 months, I mean, in 6 months' time, if you're not building a strong enough relationship with your members, and I've heard you say this too, Dustin, like treat them like family, like they're there with you, they're part of your thing. You don't have that, you're going to start losing people. And especially when things go wrong, when you have equipment issues or the AC breaks, you just need one negative problem to the person who you haven't talked to justify canceling their membership. Versus if you were just on top of them and with them and they saw an inconvenience, they go, you know what? That sucks for the studio, but they're going to figure it out because, Dustin's amazing and he takes care of all of us.
Yes. I love that because at the end of the day, what you're saying is just give a crap about your clients, and you can't fake that. But it also comes down to recruiting, bringing in member or trainers and coaches that do give a crap about their clients. They're not there just for the paycheck, because that reverberates across all of the members, right, in the culture. And so again, you gave the tactical, but also like the energy behind it comes from the person. So like again, start at the recruiting level, get the right person doing the right things, and then you'll watch your business grow. You can have the wrong person do the right thing and it won't be done the way you want it, or you can have the right person do it the wrong things and it still won't be the way you want it. So you need that, like that perfect blend, right? And so that's where good leadership comes in. And so that's I think the final thing I was going to pick your brain because I know you've been super giving and you gave so many great tips for owners to grow their business. But like leadership is just so open ended, right? There's just a million ways you can go with it. So, like, what do you look for when you put a leader in place when you were looking over 30, which is crazy, or even when you had, less, like six? What makes a good GM? Like, I'm sure there's owners that like dream of having a great GM step in. So, what do they need to do first to attract someone to want to work for them? And then, like, what are the things during the recruiting that makes you see this guy's a winner, this gal's a winner? Like push them through. I see something here. So, yeah, you can answer it both ways.
Yeah. As someone who is operating in multi states, if I were to lose a manager, that's a big problem, right? If I'm losing a staff member in a different state and, they give their 2 weeks and it is what it is, and I'm not prepared, like that's a problem. And I knew that ahead of time. I was like, okay, here are the risks. And I think a lot of owners forget that. Like there are risks in everything. You could have the best person in the world managing your studio and something tragically happens in their life where they have to leave. I say that because I've been there. Like it's happened to me and it sucks. So the first step is one, when you're recruiting your front line, think about if they're going to be somebody that will eventually become your next level leader. Because what made me very successful in having the time in my life without, having to invest so much time and focus on the business instead of just in the business was recruiting the frontline people who have potential in growth. They may not take it, but they have potential. And, people, it's so funny. You'll ask people, oh, do you ever, think about growing? And they're like, well, I'm on this path and doing this and blah, 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 blah. And then when an opportunity strikes, you get an email and you go, hey, I saw this opportunity in the back of your mind. You're like, well, this person didn't really tell me they want. So you don't ever really know, but you want to get a feel of it, right? And I use this acronym called PEAK, PEAK. P is perseverance. Are they a type of person that when, conflict arises, and again, think your front line. You get somebody coming in with a bad day and they're pissed that they don't get their treadmill or they don't get into their class or whatever. Are they someone that's going to shut down or are they going to be able to handle it and figure a way, right? E, ethics. Are they someone when you're not there, they're going to do the right thing for you, right? Are they going to make sure that they're holding the standard that you require? Are they your voice in the location? Because they should be, right? A, attitude. You know, I like to hire people who are high energy like me because that's what it takes. You're very calm. Maybe if I really like you, you're opening the gym. You're an opener. But 9 times out of 10, if you don't have the attitude and understand that this is a high paced environment, we're here to help people. It's a grind, but we're going to have fun doing it. You're not going to succeed. And then K is knowledge. And this is where I feel like it's a great point to bring you and me up. If I don't have people who are seeking knowledge outside of where they are at, I know they will never grow because Dustin, you didn't grow your career just from doing the monotonous things. You seeked out knowledge, right? And for me, it was reading a bunch of books and then hiring coaches, get involved in something like the Arte Syndicate, getting involved in different things where I'm listening to people who are way better at me and what they're doing at such a high level and understanding where they're coming from and really giving that information for me to use in my own place. And so if I'm hiring somebody and they're not willing to, make that kind of investment or get excited about learning more, they're not going to last. So as you're recruiting, you're doing that. And then you want to double the people you have. So if you have a really good GM, make sure you have a really good assistant manager that could take that place or a really good front desk person that, look, if they're really serious about growth, I've done that before where I needed to hire a new manager for that flagship. It was easier for me to promote from within than to hire someone new and test them out. And I had to give that person maybe a little bit more hourly and a little bit more commission just to stay in with me because I knew that they had growth opportunity and I was willing to make that investment into them. And when that came, I wasn't worried. I was like, great, we're gonna put Amanda in, and she's gonna take it over, and we're gonna be fine. She knows my process, my energy, my attitude. She knows how to do everything and we're good. So in short, because I talk a lot, it's just recruiting, having that peak acronym, and then understanding recruiting is really never done. You're always looking to make sure that you have
Yeah.
people in place that when things happen, don't let that be a bottleneck. Have somebody that you could put in place right away.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're hiring coaches, but you're looking for management potential coaches right out of the gate, or people that have a growth trajectory and they want to grow. And I think that, that's definitely something to keep in mind to all the owners listening is like, don't turn off your marketing or your recruiting brain, which is marketing team members. There's a story from the military where the generals can tell who were the weakest parts of the military, and it was the guys who let their facial hair grow out because obviously they got to like trim and keep it, and so they're like, if they're really low, like not complying with our hygiene protocols, they're not doing their patrols, they're not keeping their guns clean. And that was like their quick hack to how can I walk onto a base and immediately know they're not up to standard. And the first thing they looked at was, how well are they keeping up their hygiene? And then from there, they knew everything else was downhill. So like for an owner, that equivalent is, I have a team. Why am I looking? I got a team in place. That beard's growing, and it's going to eventually become ZZ Top if you don't, be on the lookout always for talent, because, it can be somewhat of a transient business. A lot of people don't make it a full career, very long. The average person stays in the fitness industry 3 years or less, and then they change industries. It's not even your gym. They literally decide to leave the industry. So you have to make a place where there is growth so they can see a career being made there. And then you have to be a leader worth following, right? And so that's all the things you said. All the give a crap powers you use on a client, use it on your team. Give a crap about them, that they're making more, that they're ascending on your team company ladder, that they're achieving their goals, and then they'll be committed to you as much as you are committed to them, right?
100%.
Giuseppe, this has been awesome, man. So I want to point people to where to follow you. And again, I know you got content you're putting out that's helpful just like this, but where can they learn more about you and what you provide?
Yeah. So the best place to just get some really good resources is my Instagram. You can follow me. It's Giuseppe.a.Mellone. I'm also on LinkedIn. But go on there, take a look at the content, make sure you follow those things that resonate with you. And then if you're looking for more information, if for the owners that are watching this, you just DM me G dash Dustin. I'll know that you came from this show, and I'll send you a marketing. I call it my magnetic marketing blueprint, where if you take your organic marketing materials, align it with this blueprint, it's going to get you a lot more engagement, a lot more growth. So that you have more opportunities to have some more conversations. I'll be able to send that out completely for free. But those are the best places to reach out to me. And then yeah, if you need help, just ask. Like we're always happy to chat, and if it's something worthwhile, we'll talk. If not, I'll send you a video. Be like, hey, just watch this. There you go.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll link his Instagram in the podcast notes so you guys can easily do that. Thank you, dude, for being giving, helping other gym owners, and helping our industry out because they definitely need it. We're in a bad place with our health for our country, and that's the mission of this podcast, is to churn over the war on obesity in our country, right? And that's only going to come from great coaches with great owners and great gyms, which I call forward operating bases, that are attracting people to come in and fight that war on obesity every single day. So thank you for everything you do.
Well, Dustin, thank you for everything you do. And for the people who are listening, maybe you're listening to Dustin Show for the first time, you need to check out every single one of his videos because they're superb. They're value packed. I was just watching some of them in the last couple weeks and was like, man, I wish I would have known this when I was in this situation. So you're giving out so much value and you're really helping the cause. So I'm grateful for you, and I'm glad we're able to connect and share the good word.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Gym owners, I want to officially invite you into my free Facebook group just for you. It's called Fitness Sales Made Simple. And essentially, I'm sharing free resources in there all the time to help you grow your business. Doesn't matter to me if you ever work with gym reinforcements, you can gather all kinds of cool content and tools and resources. We have free webinar trainings, free guides, free lead magnets, free scripts that you can send out to make sales. and it's all in the group. So go ahead and click on the link in the description and you could get inside and get these free tools. See you on the inside.